Hey everybody, it's Rex Sikes, rexsikes.com. I hope you come and visit me. I hope also that this video, what I'm doing right now, will be a very important, life-changing, transformational video for you to pay attention to and to share with other people. And there's a reason for that. A lot of people are struggling. A lot of people are facing what appear to be insurmountable odds or circumstances. They are either financially in debt or ruin. They are either facing health challenges or relationship challenges, or people who they count on and rely on aren't responsive or aren't helping, but maybe even part of the problem. There are people who promise things but never deliver. There are circumstances that can seem overwhelming. And when that happens, we say, hey, keep a positive mindset, stay optimistic. And people go, well, I don't know how to do that, and life is horrible right now. Yeah, it may be. But the alternative is what you hope for, is that everything would be perfect and everything would work out and everything would be good, and that life would be easy. And yet it's not always that way. And so you're encouraged to stay positive and optimistic, because what's the alternative to that? To be negative, to be morose, to feel bad, to feel frightened. Well, that's what you're already experiencing, isn't it? You're feeling bad inside. You're feeling lost or abandoned. You're feeling hopeless. You're feeling shame. You're feeling whatever it might be. Understand that that moment and these circumstances truly are, even though you and I don't want to think of it that way, they're truly an opportunity. Now, some people call them challenges, other people call them problems, other people call them, horrible conditions or whatever it might be, but they're an opportunity to begin to look at things differently. And if you always look at them the same, you'll never get past them. We are creatures of habit. If we always do what we always did, we always get what we always got. And guess what? Most of us always do what we always did, and we always get what we always got, because that's what we know, and that's what we're comfortable with, and that's what we're bound to repeat because they're habits. It's what we know. And true transformation and change means to go beyond what we know. And that can seem difficult. That can seem tough. That can seem challenging. So how do you do it? What do you do? I talk often about, Edward C. Barnes and, how he went to be with Edison, and he put Edison on notice. Although he was dressed like a hobo, he had no money and had not even a reason to believe that Edison would accept him as a partner. He went to put Edison on notice that, hey, I'm going to be a partner of yours one day. And Edison said, well, I gave him a job as a janitor. And for 5 years, Barnes worked as a janitor with no outer circumstances doing anything to suggest that he would ever be a partner of Edison. All it suggested was that he was a janitor in Edison's warehouse for 5 years. And then one day, 5 years later, the salespeople on Edison's staff couldn't move a dictograph machine, a recording device, So it was a problem for Edison. They had a product that they couldn't sell. And Barnes said, I'll sell it. And Edison at that point gave him a chance. And the rest is history. He sold it really, really well. In fact, the slogan became, made by Edison, sold by Barnes. Now, here's the interesting thing. It was a problem for the Edison company. And Barnes had been in a situation for 5 years where he was nothing more than a janitor, wanting inside himself, or knowing inside himself, that the situation could change and would change, or that he would be a partner for Edison. But he had no reason to believe that if he looked at the outside world. And you and I have no reason to believe that the circumstances will change, or that the problem that you're facing now will go away, or that someone else's problem won't be another opportunity for you. You see, we just don't know what we don't know. And if you want your life to improve, you have to do a couple of things. One is you have to expect it to improve, because if you expect it to go and get worse, you're feeding that energy. You're thinking about it. You're concentrating on it. You're not looking at resources or opportunities or possibilities. You're expecting a bad outcome. So if you believe the circumstances are dire, or your relationships are dire, or that people aren't helping you or supporting you, are nasty, and you're putting all of this on that, then guess what? It's bound to remain the same or get worse. If, on the other hand, you have that, what the Bible will call a seed, a mustard seed, size of faith, which is a very tiny seed, a mustard seed. If you had that much faith, you could change your circumstances. You could say to that mountain, move, and the mountain will be removed. Now, that's not talking about literal mountains. It's talking about your problems. It's talking about the cemented feelings that you have, the ones that you think never change, or the thoughts, the dire thoughts that you have, or the negativity that you could say, move, and it can move. You have to have that faith, though. You have to have that certainty that no matter what happens, ultimately good can come from it. And I know it doesn't seem like it, but that's why it requires that faith. And the thing that moves mountains isn't blind faith in nothingness. It's the optimism and the energy and the positivity that you put into things that makes it different. It's taking responsibility and deciding that no matter what comes, I will be okay. No matter what comes, I will get through this or past this or beyond this. I can do this. And then you begin to look for your inner resources, the faith, the hope, the goodness, the kindness, the positivity, whatever it might be, the persistence, the commitment, the dedication, and then look for outer resources. Because when it came time for Edison to have someone sell his product and he couldn't find one, who was the person who sold it? It was the janitor. And both of them found each other in that moment, although it had happened 5 years earlier. And little did Edison know that 5 years later he would be making, or 6 years later, he would be making Barnes a partner. Barnes was convinced he would be a partner, but for 5 years, or however long after he started selling, he wasn't a partner. So he didn't know. Both went about their business, except in the Napoleon Hill book, Think and Grow Rich, it says that Barnes kept the fire alive inside him, even though there was no evidence. There was nothing to true. So I'm going to switch to another story, and I like to talk about this. This is a minister in the book. His name is Gunnislaus. I can never say his name right, but Gunnislaus. And he wanted money. He needed $1 million, and he tried to get it for a long time, and then he decided. I mean, he literally made a decision, or he actually made a decision. Said, I want to get it by the end of the week. I mean, I now want to get this money. So he wrote a sermon, and he put an ad at that time. Back in those days, they put ads in the paper saying, I'm going to give you this sermon at such and such a place at such and such a time. If I had $1 million, and you're invited to show up. So the day came for him to deliver his sermon, and he got to the pulpit and realized he had left his notes. He had forgot them. He didn't know, he didn't have his speech. So all he could do was speak from his heart. All he could do is speak from his memory. All he could do is speak from his being. And so he delivered the sermon, If I Had $1 Million. And at the end of the sermon, someone came up to him, a guy named Armour, and that name should sound familiar to most people, Armour Meat Products, Armour Meats. Armour came up to him and said, I have $1 million. If you meet with me this week, it's yours. They met that week. This was in Illinois. And Gunnislaus said, I want to create a school, whereby people can be educated to have careers and to move forward. Armour financed that. You can look this up. It's in Wikipedia. But Gunnislaus said to this, he said, all the time I struggled, but when I made a decision that I was going to get it no matter what, I was going to find it, it was going to come to me, he said, this peace came over me. I knew that something had transformed and that there was a change. I knew that I was on the right path. And that's the thing. I mean, and I quote the Bible again, the peace that passeth all understanding, or that all things work together for good, is an opportunity for us to understand, whether you believe the Bible or not. That's not important. I just love the fact that there's these promises in all sorts of, mystic writings throughout the centuries. And it says You know, if you have this face of the seed, the size of the seed of a mustard seed, you know, and you understand that all things work together for good, and you trust, then you end up with the peace that passeth all understanding. So the point I'm making is that when you are troubled, stop putting energy into your troubles. Put energy into a release, into abundance. Know that you can solve them. Know that there are people out there that can help you. And understand that where you've been looking may have been in the wrong directions. And to release that, forgive yourself if you need to, forgive others if you need to, but release and let it go. And find a way to remain optimistic and positive and not succumb to negative feelings or negative thoughts. This is the most important thing that you can do. It's not the idea that people think, you know, you just act like there are, you know, and I've said this before in videos and elsewhere, you know, some people say positive thinking is like, there are no weeds, there are no weeds, there are no weeds, there are no weeds, and that's not what positive thinking is. Positive thinking is, okay, there are weeds in my garden. I want a beautiful garden. I can make my garden look beautiful. I can find a way to weed them, or I can learn how to weed them if I don't know how, or I can find somebody who can weed them for me. I may not have the money. I can maybe get somebody in barter. I can figure out a way to take care of this so that I have a beautiful garden. It's that faith in yourself, in your abilities to see beyond what the difficulties are, that will allow you to move forward in a powerful and positive way. If you let it stop you, you are stopped. If you let it inspire you, well, then you can soar with the eagles. You're inspired, you know. And again, I tell this to a lot of people. There are people who actually put blockages in front of them while they run around a racetrack. It's called the hurdle race, right? So they have to run and jump over hurdles while trying to beat the competition or do the best time. They actually have obstacles in their path. And their accomplishment is not only the fast speed, but navigating over all of those obstacles. So that's what life is about. Life gives us opportunities, it gives us obstacles, it gives us gifts, it gives us hardships, so that we can unlock the talents and the abilities and the resources and the possibilities and the infinite opportunity within us. It's really a wonderful thing, and yet what we've been conditioned to do is to think that when hardships arise or circumstances go south, or when we're facing debt or crisis or challenges of health or relationship challenges or whatever it may be, that this is bad. And that is one way to look at it. And if you look at it as bad and can do nothing about it, then you end up living life as a victim. But if you look at it as a gift and an opportunity, as an awakening to do something, to change your experience. I mean, there are people who, they don't have money, but there are places where you can go and get job training. Or if you're disabled, you can get job training. There are government programs that can help you if you need, you know, medical assistance and medical care. You may or may not qualify. But the point is that there are resources around us, and a lot of people just don't know how to connect with the resources around us, whether that's family or friends or even strangers. And worse, most people don't know how to connect with their inner resources, because all they see is the conditioning from which they live, the feelings from which they live. And some of those, they're lying feelings in some ways, you know. In other words, if you feel fearful, maybe it's not really fear. Maybe it's an alert that's saying, okay, appraise this situation. Look at this. I'm not talking about if you're walking in an alley dark at night, you're worried about somebody being out there. That's a realistic fear to have, and to take steps to be safe, right? But what I'm saying is a lot of people are deceived by their own feelings, which is why Muhammad Ali said, there are plenty of times I don't feel like training, but I still train because I know if I want to be the world's greatest boxer, I have to train. So I don't let my feelings tell me what to do. I do what I need to do in order to be the best. That's attitude. That is activating your attitude. That is getting your beliefs and your values and your attitude, your mindset, your feelings all in alignment, and being responsible for the outcome that you want to produce. He wanted to be the world's greatest champion, so he goes, I know I need to train. And lesser people will go, oh, I don't feel like it today, and they'll sit home and they'll watch TV and eat donuts, and they'll never be a champion. If you allow yourself to be defeated by your thoughts or your feelings, you are ultimately going to miss. But if you understand that you can take charge of your thoughts and feelings and make a powerful decision that, you know what, I'm not going to let this stop me. I'm going to move forward. I'm going to find the resources. I'm going to make it happen, and begin to convince yourself, because that's really what it is all about. Convince yourself that you can do this. Convince yourself that you will see it through. Convince yourself that there's light at the end of the tunnel and that you're moving in that light and in that awareness. And the days will get better. Because when you have that mustard seed sized faith and you allow it to blossom, you change and you transform, and everything about you and everything transforms. And even if your situations remain dire, as they did, for many people, whether it was Mandela, or Gandhi, or Viktor Frankl, who was, in a concentration camp, even if the circumstances remain the same, you transform, and that's what's important. And when you transform, you can begin to make a difference in your daily life and in the life that you ultimately live. So the question that I always have for people is to choose. It's either dog shit or diamonds. It's your choice. If you wallow and live by, your fears and your doubts, sorry, that was Sasha bumping the camera. If you live by your fears, oh, there's Bailey. If you live by your fears and your doubts, you will always be a victim of them. If you find the courage within to declare yourself capable of making a change, and that it's possible that you can make a change, and then you can and will do it, all of the life becomes your oyster. And you become the master of circumstances no matter what they are. Because your attitude allows you to rise above the circumstances. If it seems impossible now, I understand. We all face it. If we're facing a wall, it's very difficult to see anything else. In fact, when racetrack drivers are driving around the circle of the racetrack, they're taught to steer away from the wall, because, where you look is where you move. Where you look is where you drive. And we know this from driving lessons about aim high and, but what people don't realize is when they're trying to avoid something, if you look at what you're trying to avoid, you ultimately steer into it. And so racetrack drivers are taught, if you're headed to the wall, look to the open field. Look to the open field, because then when you look to the open field, you tend to move the vehicle toward the open field. This is brain science. This is not made up. This is true. Because typically you look where you're going and you walk where you're looking. All right, so that's intimately tied together. So if you look at the dire consequences of a circumstance, guess what? If you look at the thing you're trying to avoid, you're bound to hit it. That's the law of attraction, really. Where your attention goes, your energy flows. But if you want to be clear of the circumstances, you have to look away from what was the problem. Barnes could not let the fact that he was a janitor prevent him from that one-time, opportunity of becoming Edison's partner. He was convinced he would be the partner no matter what. He was willing to put in at least 5 years of being a janitor with no evidence he would ever be a partner. He was willing to work on himself inside and work as a janitor for the chance of becoming a partner. But the difference is he knew if he did it, he could and would become a partner. The Reverend Gunsalas at some point said, I need this, but I'm also going to have it, and I'm going to have it by the end of the week. This is my deadline. I'm going to do whatever I have to do in order to get it by the end of the week, legally, of course. And so he did what he knew, but he also went out and gave an impassioned speech to people who had been notified about the speech and who were able to show up. And guess what? Armour showed up, somebody there. And there might have been others, but Armour walked up to him and said, meet with me this week and we'll talk about getting you your $1 million. I believe you. Edison said when he saw Barnes, I gave him a job as a janitor because he showed up looking like a hobo. There was nothing about him that was impressive except for the look in his eye. And I know enough about human beings to take that look in their eye seriously when you see it. So develop that look, develop that confidence, develop that self-image where I can do anything. And activate your attitude and make sure that it's powerful and positive, and that you understand that it's your responsibility to get through these things. And yes, there are people who can help you. That's what working together cooperatively and collaboratively and in harmony is all about. But whether alone or with others, you have infinite resources within you, and you just need to find them. Start by making a powerful decision and thinking positively and optimistically. I always land on my feet. I always land. If you have to affirm it, jump up and down and scream it. I land on my feet. Good always happens to me. Everything is going to work out. I can't see the way, but it's all going to work out. If you believe in God, you can give your faith to God. If you believe in the universe, give your universe. If you don't believe in anything, then just believe in yourself. The point is don't live as a victim suffering when you can live as a champion winning, no matter what's going on around you. And far better, think about it this way, it's far better to feel good and feel optimistic health-wise than to feel pointless and useless and drained and negative, regardless of what circumstances are. I'd rather be positive and optimistic that I can get through my challenges and turn them into opportunities than to feel defeated by the challenges or opportunities. So the question becomes is, how do you want to live? And that's just why I say dog shit or diamonds. It's your choice. I hope you choose diamonds. I hope that this has spoken to your heart. If you needed to hear it, then I hope you hear it and listen and act on it. I hope you share it with other people. And I hope you visit rexsikes.com. That's my name. Visit my website. There's programs, my book, and my other things there. But let's stay in touch. Let's make sure that whatever difficulty or difficult time you're going through, that we can get through it together, because we can. Okay? It's good to do another live and to have my girls here with me while I do it. I wish you the very, very best. Much love, peace, and blessings. And as I always say, if you consider something a problem, it is a problem. And if you consider that same thing, something a blessing, it is a blessing. Get it? It's your attitude, the way you look at things, that makes the difference. So always look at things the best, and you have an opportunity to create the best. And that is why I say celebrate everything. I'll see you the next time. I'll see you at the website. I'll see you online. I'll see you somewhere. But celebrate everything.